Good evening and welcome to the Undercovers podcast. I'm Ben along with Paul and Connor, and we are officially 1 month away from the NFL draft, ladies and gentlemen. Oh,
Oh yeah.
we are getting there. We're gonna get into a mock draft that actually mock drafts, I should say, because me and Connor each did a mock draft. So we're gonna kind of get into those a little bit later, talk about each individual picks, and then I guess maybe we'll even post them up. We can have like a poll and you can vote on who did a better mock. But guys, how are we feeling tonight? Like, obviously the draft is getting here fast. I'm pumped for that. Like, as I've said before, I just love the draft and draft season, and now it's like full steam ahead. So we're here, and we're getting closer to finally getting that wide receiver too that many of us have been coveting for the last couple seasons, ever since we lost Emmanuel Sanders, who to me was the last true number two receiver this team has had.
If it wasn't for the bipolar Buffalo weather, I would feel much better tonight. But, the stupid bipolar Buffalo weather going from 50 degrees one day and 28 degrees and freezing with snow the other night.
Yeah, I mean, I got beef with that woodchuck or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
Groundhog. Sorry.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I
Phil
think
or
we all
whatever his
do.
name is. Like, come on, dog. You gotta
Jackson
just give it
Honey
up after
Phil.
this year. Like, you lied to everyone. We were expecting an early spring, and like, it felt like we got one at one point, and then we just got more
Like 3
snow and
days.
more snow, and like, it got nice again. And guess what? More snow. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely nice outside. Hopefully, it stays this way. I know Connor can't relate because he's in
No, I
Florida, so he always has nice
can't.
weather.
Well, most of the time
Most of
anyway.
the time outside of hurricane season, but it's not hurricane season now, so you should
Yet,
be chilling.
yet it's coming. It's coming.
Oh, definitely. Let's start with our normal quick takes today because the
Sure.
NFL decided to make some new rule changes,
Oh,
especially the one with the hip
the hip
the
drop
hip drop
Hip drop
tackle.
tackle. Yep,
tackle.
yep.
With
That
the hip
so
drop tackle. But so this is taking away from really just a pure tackle in the NFL to making it harder for defenders to find a way to tackle a player. Obviously they're trying to make the game safer, but it doesn't make sense to take maybe one of the common tackles away from a defensive player. So
sure.
Ben, is the NFL slowly heading to flag football?
I mean, I feel like it's probably been heading this way for a while, but I mean, the rules definitely are favoring the offense. I mean, you've seen some of the reactions from players around the league today. Like, they took to social media. Like, I mean, Justin Simmons, that's a guy a lot of us Bills fans wouldn't mind suiting up for us next year. He said on Twitter, like, I guess we're playing flag at this point. I mean, and he's not really wrong as far as the hip drop tackles. You can't tackle low or whatever. Quarterbacks, especially, it feels like you can't even breathe on them nowadays, without a roughing the passer being called. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely interesting area where the NFL is going, but I mean, we kind of knew it was going this way. Like, you see how big fantasy sports are and everything else now. Like, the NFL wants more points, and like, they're gonna get it, I think. And like, this is even more of a reason for the Bills to go offense in round one of the draft. Like, it's going to be harder to defend. So get a dang good weapon to make this offense even more harder to defend. Because with these rules, like, it's going to be hard to play defense. So like, what's the point of even trying to build a great defensive team when to begin with the rules favor the offenses?
I hate to say it, but you're absolutely right, especially with how the NFL's going. First, we banned hip drop tackles. I mean, what is a tackle anymore? I mean, at this point, literally, the flag
Yeah,
football game,
the
like they have at the Pro
NFL
Bowl, is
always
about to
has.
do exactly. We're about to be playing the Pro Bowl in every game now,
For sure.
except
And
with
and you brought
flags
up,
in people's shorts.
Connor, you brought up an awesome point, which kind of just like, it's the NFL, and they're all also fine lines with the rules where things are almost like they leave too much up to the officials now because like you
Ugh.
don't really know what's a tackle. It's kind of like the catch thing, right? Like what is a catch? Well, now we're gonna have what is a tackle. Like the NFL can't just make their rules straightforward enough. Like it's a physical sport. Players are
Mhm.
going to get hurt. That's just the nature of the game. Like
It's a
you
collision sport.
exactly. You have for instance, non-contact injuries that happen regardless if a player, gets tackled. So injuries happen either way. If anything,
Mhm.
like you could make an argument that I don't know if this is backed by data, but it seems like there's a lot more soft tissue issues than like 10 or 15 years ago when every team was doing two a days. Our teams maybe not conditioning or practicing enough. Like I don't know. Like it's always interesting. Like the NFL, like we're still gonna love it at the end of the day because football is the greatest sport on the planet. But I mean, it's definitely going through some changes, and I don't think these are for the betterment of the sport. But I mean, I guess we're gonna just have to live with it. But like we're gonna have some games that could be decided. It's a 3rd and 15 or whatever. There's a critical stop over the middle of the field and a ref makes a judgment call that that's a hip drop tackle, 15-yard automatic first down. Like those are game-changing penalties. Like I can get it, if maybe something in the case of the Tony Pollard injury, which I think was an extreme one-off situation, but like if anything, go and find the players afterwards. Like
Wait
don't
a minute. Wait a
impact the
minute.
games.
Wait a minute.
So
You're talking about the Tony Pollard injury when it came to banning the hip drop tackle?
Mhm.
Because it was actually go back to the Mark Andrews injury.
it was
That's
that
why
one.
they banned hip drop
No, no, no,
tackle.
no, no. I get it, but that was last season. That was a big talking point. I'm saying that's like a one-off situation
Mhm.
where you have a player like him who's a lot smaller getting thrown down. Like you could maybe make a case that those like should kind of be taken away, but like I think the standard hip drop tackle like it's too much of like a fine line. Like I think if it's like a suplex or something that's like clear intent or like super malicious and like dirty where a player actually gets hurt, then yes, you can maybe throw like an unnecessary roughness penalty or something like that. I think there are maybe some instances, Tony Pollard was the first that came to mind. Like maybe Mark Andrews too, you could say could, in some instances, something like that. But like it's just gonna be every tackle at this point. But let's
You're
move
adding
on because I
more.
mean we could really but we're adding more gray area, right? But I mean we could really
Mhm.
have a whole hour, 2 hour show
Okay,
just arguing
right.
about this.
Yeah, because you know
And
what's gonna happen? It's gonna happen to the Chiefs. Everybody's gonna lose their
oh yeah,
friggin' minds.
Oh my gosh, don't even put that out in the universe. We're just like
Too
it's
late.
manifesting
Already
okay.
that
did.
now. Oh
Already did.
man.
You're
Too late.
really quick. I just kind of want to clarify the penalty thing because Dean Plandino was on One Bill's Drive live this afternoon
Sure.
talking about this. He said this is probably going to be handled more through fines after
Mhm.
the game. So the NFL will be going through these games and they're saying, "Oh, that's a hip drop," and you will get, you get fined rather than, the NFL throwing, these referees throwing, 15 flags a game for hip drop tackles and
Mhm.
adding more subjectivity to this game, which this game doesn't need any more subjectivity,
For sure.
i.e., last year with all the subjectivity that teams went through last year.
Sure.
So now with offense now being added back, into the game, is offense now more important than defense, Connor?
Well, the mantra is defense wins championships, but if the defense can't play the game of football because they're afraid of tackles, then maybe offense is more important. I was actually thinking about this earlier today. If we're going to see defenders struggling to make tackles because they're afraid of getting penalized for just touching a guy, you know who that's going to really benefit the most? That is mobile quarterbacks. When you think of mobile quarterbacks, who is one guy that comes to your mind immediately? Just anyone gonna say it? Just somebody say it because I know what you're thinking. Say it. Ben,
Josh.
say it. Exactly. You're
Yeah.
gonna see Josh Allen breaking out for a lot more of these
I mean, I was even just
25,
thinking
30-yard
about
runs.
Josh before you even mentioned
Turn alone.
quarterback. I was just like, can you imagine Josh in the open field now with
Mhm.
defenders trying to make a business decision? I mean, they have to make a business decision already if they even
Mhm.
want to try to attempt to tackle him. Now they might just like it might just be like that Pittsburgh game all over again, and everyone might
Yep.
just like clear out of the way, and Josh just
It's
has a wide open first
it's
down
not
lane.
even Josh, it's anybody with the ball. Let James cook is going to be a thing I think we're gonna see a lot more of because now you're making a
I
business
mean,
decision on, "Do I tackle this
I'll
guy in
say
the open
this,
field?"
Connor. With these rules and how he played last year, we're gonna have to start calling him James Chef from now on because he
Oh
won't
my
be just be a cook.
god.
He'll be a chef.
Oh my god. No, you know who else I think is really gonna benefit from this? Dalton Kincaid.
Yep.
Put him on some slant routes, some really
I
close
mean,
in, and just
even
have him run with
Dawson
the ball.
Knox. Dawson Knox has 4.5 speed for a tight end that is pretty rare, and
Mhm.
freakish athletic ability. Give him like a tight end screen or a crosser over the middle and let him get to work. Like,
Exactly, but at the end of the day, I'd rather, solidify Dalton Kincaid as tight end 1 in this offense, but you have a point. But at the end of the day, to the question,
I mean, we got
offense
a
is
super
going to
tight
rule
end
the league.
duo. We gotta, realize both players are gonna make an impact.
Mhm. Exactly. And at the end of the day, the offensive capability of any team is going to be so much more important. A matter of consistency and a matter of stability. Like, if defenders are going to have to worry about getting flagged for every single tackle, then let's find these shifty guys that can break all the tackles, the ones that can just, or you can think about it the other way too, the ones that just bowl people over because they don't care. They ain't going to get tackled. Your big physical guys. So it's like you said, Dawson Knox. Yeah, he's a pretty big and physical tight end. Why not just have him run some tight end screens? Give him the ball, let him truck people. And I think that's going to be a perfect segue into our mock drafts too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I mean, I
I think you
mentioned
and I,
previously, Connor, like with the rules favoring offense, that gives the Bills even more reason to go offense. And
hmm
as you mentioned, it's a more offensive league. Like the Bills have already been very hard to stop with good weapons overall, some elite weapons. But if you add to that, we've already added with Samuel. But if you keep adding and allow, Shakir and Kincaid to keep developing, like we could have a dangerous offense. It could almost be historical with,
oh,
with Josh under center,
yeah,
especially
well, there's,
with Brady. Like I'll say this, Joe Brady, his first year when he came to LSU as a full-time offensive coordinator, he brought a lot of different concepts into a pretty good offense to begin with, and he took that to heights that the college game had never seen before. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to be the best NFL offense ever because Brady had the best college offense ever, but
don't
like
say that.
with some of these pieces and you give Brady a full off season to put his stuff in there, like the Bills could have a very dangerous offense next season. And I think you want to just keep giving him more weapons at his disposal, make the Bills
hmm
even more versatile and hard to defend. So that's why I want to get maybe even a couple offensive weapons. Like we'll get into my mock draft in a bit, but I think uh, we got some trivia before, right, Paul?
Oh yeah, we have some
Some,
trivia, I think. I was
some good
sitting
old
here thinking,
trivia.
offense, like the offensive theme, with all the rule changes. So I'm like, let's do some deep dive research for this one. So there have been 98 wide receivers taken in the first round since 2000. Which year saw zero first round selections for a wide receiver?
Um,
You're going to stump me now, Paul.
I would have to say, like, just like going off the top of my head, we've had at least one every year since like 2011, 2012. Like, I don't
Are
know.
you in the
Yeah,
2000s here, Paul, or are
it's
you in the
probably
2010s?
it's it's probably gonna be in the 2000s. I'm
I think
thinking. I'm
so
gonna
too.
guess. I don't even know. I'll guess this is probably off 2005.
Okay, Connor.
Hmm. Trying to think. You know what?
I know I have a general idea where it is, but like I don't know. I mean, I think it's around there. I mean, maybe 06. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. Shot in the dark, 2003. I'm going lower than you. I can't think of any
It's
other.
probably like 01 or 2000. Like that's
Yeah.
when it started.
Paul, give us the answer.
The answer is 2008. Zero
2008.
wide receivers were taken in
Okay.
2008.
First
So
of all,
that
you
was
just said
the
tooken. You just said tooken. Do you even English, Paul? Okay, but no, seriously, 2008?
Yeah, I mean
2008.
that
Wow.
that's kind of I was gonna guess like 08 or like
You know what?
07. That was like my next guess. I knew it like couldn't have been after like 2010, 2011 because like the NFL has been like a very heavy passing league. So it's like wide
Right.
receivers are a premium position, in today's game. So yeah,
The
that
Dolphins
makes
took
sense.
Jake Long, the tackle,
What a
first
cursed
overall
pick.
in 2000 and in the
What a
2008 NFL
cursed pick.
draft.
You went 1-15 the previous year. You took an offensive tackle #1 overall, you idiots.
Hey,
Like
they had Leo Clement at quarterback. They didn't
they
need.
had more than Leo Clement. Way more than Leo Clement in
Just saying that
2007,
that
and they
was
went
the
1 and
first
15.
overall pick in 2018 in 2008
Oh, Gerard
with
Mayo
Dolphins.
was in that draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know
He
who else was
was.
in that draft? Matt Ryan.
Joe Flacco.
Well, I'm actually looking
I
at it
mean,
right now.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking at it now. It's crazy how much the league has changed because back
Oh,
then
yeah. That
you
was when the
had
Steelers took Rashard Mendenhall. That's
you
right.
had 4 running backs go in, the first round. I mean,
You
the
had a running
first
back go 4th overall.
yeah,
That's
the
incredible
first
to think about.
receiver taken was Donnie Avery.
To the Rams back when they were in St. Louis. And then fun fact, another wide receiver went right after
I
that.
mean, Jordy Nelson was in that draft class though, so I mean, it
Yes, he
still
was.
had, Eddie Royal was pretty
So
good for,
so
a
was
little
Deshaun
bit.
Jackson.
Oh yeah, I just scrolled to Deshaun
Stevie
Jackson.
Johnson went in the 7th round to the Bills.
Jamal Charles, like my fantasy goat.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of really interesting players taken in this draft.
Mario Manningham, Super Bowl legend, right?
Yep. Yep, Super Bowl legend indeed. But that was a very interesting piece of trivia there, Paul. I don't know where you dig up half these facts from, but that was actually pretty good.
It was just a
Yeah.
random research I decided to do today, wide receivers, because that's the train we're riding into the draft. I think that's the train we're riding. That's what teams are with. I had this thought, I was going to make it easier trivia to say like, what was the most first round picks, for by receivers taken. And I was like, let's make it a little difficult. Let's see if there was been a year that there was 0. And there was, and thanks to some quick Google searches, it fed up on the Google. So before we get into your potential mock drafts here later, we could definitely within the next 10-15 minutes, you guys can take over the show and just debate your mock drafts for a little while.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
the circulating debate with these two receivers, it just intrigues me. Lad McConkey and Xavier Legette. Just my Twitter feed the last couple of days,
Yeah.
just been feed between Xavier Legette and Lad McConkey. Like, you have to go get Xavier Legette and you have to go get Lad McConkey. We're going to debate this. Biggest reach for the Bills, Lad McConkey or Xavier Legette?
I don't know. You know what, Ben, you start with this.
I didn't want to start because you guys may not like my answer. I'm gonna have the unpopular answer. I'm gonna say neither. Like the Bills
Neither?
need a receiver. I think you can't go wrong
Neither.
with either Xavier Legette or Lad McConkey at pick
You know
28
what? I
because
can't argue that.
look
I
at
can't.
look at Lad McConkey's profiles and measurements and everything. Like his pro comp is Garrett Wilson. And like, if you can draft a Garrett Wilson, I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Garrett Wilson, but he has, some of the same, athletic ability, height, length, speed. And if you can get someone like a Garrett Wilson at pick 28, like, are you really going to pass that up? And like, he dominated the SEC, which is one of the toughest conferences. He can play outside and inside, which is a common misconception. Has speed to, beat or defensive backs downfield with a 4.39 40. Like, he's 6 foot. Like, I don't think you can go wrong with Ladd McConkey. But on the same token, Xavier Legette is 6'1", has a 4.39 speed as well, and he has freakish athletic ability. Because I mean, I would take a Xavier Legette opposite Stephon Diggs to pair on the outside, because I mean, I think with Josh Allen, like,
would be bad.
Yeah.
No. You want to hear a reach? If we're going to discuss a reach, Cooper DeJean.
Oh, I like that. Cooper
DeJean
would
be a reach in round 1.
I agree, because I don't think the Bills really need a defensive back. Like, I get it. There's a safety hole.
Yes, they do. But here's the thing.
It's not like the biggest need, though, Connor.
Someone's going to shoot me in the comments later. But listen. We do need a safety, but I don't think, even if Cooper DeJean is there in round 1, I don't think the Bills should go safety immediately. I think wide receiver is far more of a pressing need, unless, and we've discussed this, you and me, Ben,
sure,
if Jared Verse somehow falls to 28.
Well, that's like the dream scenario, but like, shout out to Kush too, because he brought a great point up about Ladd's movement being different. But he also said in one of our spaces earlier, premium defensive linemen like Jared Verse usually don't make it to the end of round 1. We got fortunate in 2020, with Greg Rousseau, because Greg Rousseau, if you don't remember, he sat out the 2020 season. He opted out because that was the COVID year. But he was actually originally projected to go in, the top 10. If he played, that season, the Bills may not have been able to get Greg Rousseau. So I don't know if you can count on, like, if Jared Verse is there, yeah, you're sprinting up, to the podium, and you're putting that pick in, and then you could figure out the wide receiver position later, because I think it's one of our next topics. I have a solution to that too, but
I'm sure you do.
If Latu fells, Jenna, I think it's kind of the same thing with Latu versus Verse. I think you take either of them if either are there, because they're just like amazing edge prospects. But I don't know if either of them would be there in 28. I mean, even if they fall in the mid-20s, you can make an argument that you could trade up for them, and it wouldn't be a bad trade up, because we saw it last year when we traded up from whatever 27-ish to get Kincaid. Like, it only costs like a 4th or 5th rounder. We have 2 4s, 3 5ths, something like that. So, I mean, we even have future capital we can move. So, like, if there's a premium player, you could still get a Verse or a Latu and then be positioned to grab a wide receiver too.
Oh, yeah, exactly. The thing about it is, I think Latu, or I can't pronounce his name.
Latu.
Okay, so I was pretty close. I think he'll be around that area. I just don't know if you can justify trading up for him because of the medical history. But if he's there, I say if he's there and your receivers like Brian Thomas Jr., Adonai Mitchell,
they're all gone.
Take a shot. I mean, if he's there with how good he was, sometimes you got to take a shot on a guy despite the medical history. I say him, Jared Verse would be excellent additions in round 1 if we didn't go wide receiver. But I know you and me and pretty much everybody else are all on the wide receiver in round 1 trade.
100%.
And there are so many options that I genuinely don't think. I know for me personally, I wouldn't be mad no matter who they took in round 1. If it was a wide receiver, no matter which wide receiver it is.
Now, that's a good segue, because we're going to talk about potential trades out of round 1. I mean, are there any situations where you would be comfortable not picking at 28? Maybe you go a little a little down in the first round, or just down to somewhere in the 30s or 40s. Like, Would that work for either of you?
You want to hear a funny story? When I was doing one of my mock drafts, I got approached by the Cleveland Browns for a trade down when they got to 28. They offered me their second round pick, their third round pick, their second rounder next year, and their third rounder next year to go to 28. I took it.
Who did
I
you get?
took it.
Who did you
I
get at
took
that pick?
I'm
Isn't it like 52 though?
Yeah,
Something like that.
it's something around that area. Hang on, let me double check. I
Is
think
this
their
is
pick.
this the mock draft that you're sharing? I don't want to. We don't want to
No,
No,
spoil
no,
what's
no.
going on.
no,
It's one you did
no,
Okay.
yesterday, right?
no. This is what I did yesterday. But I took it and I still managed Javon Baker in round 3.
Okay.
Who do
And
you take
with
at round 2 though?
in round 2, with that move up, Braden Fisk. He was there and
Okay.
I grabbed him.
All
Okay.
Braden
right.
Fisk and Javon Baker were 2 I grabbed immediately right back to back in 2 opposing rounds.
Well, you
And
would have had 2 second round picks, right? Who do you take at 60?
so I'm trying to remember. Braden Fisk, I know I went with. I think I don't remember who was left because I did it yesterday and I lost that
Okay.
draft and I don't want to spoil this one.
Sure, that's fine. I mean,
But I
for
do
me,
know Braden Fisk was there and I took him. If Braden
It's
Fisk is
just
anywhere in my round 2 mocks, I grab him. But
go
sometimes
ahead,
he's
Paul.
not there, which is perfectly understandable considering just how good Braden Fisk is. And Ben, we know. Braden Fisk
it's
will be
just
gone pretty quickly in round 2.
it's just not in the Bean's DNA to trade down. He either sticks with the pick at 20 whatever, or
Mhm.
he trades up for somebody just
I
based
have to
off
For
agree.
sure.
track record.
Mhm.
But, if teams are out there, like, they're going to be teams that who are going to reach for
For
some of
sure.
these receivers like an AD Mitchell or Xavier Worthy. It happened a couple times today when I was going through mock drafts where
Sure.
AD Mitchell was taken well before the 28th pick, and then the Bills are stuck with subpar late first round picks or even your earlier second round picks. So that would be the situation where Bean says if he has no first round grades, kind of would remind you of the Elam, right? You don't want
Oh
Bean
god.
to sit back or trade up for it to get like a Kyler Elam esque wide receiver. You want
Please
to
no.
take that receiver where he's probably going to be. So a guy like Xavier Leggett would probably, like, instead of reaching for him in the first
Sure.
round, you would trade back a couple of picks, take him where he was supposed to be. But I don't think that's in the Bean DNA. And, I don't really see much of a situation where they would trade down.
Now Zach has a very interesting scenario. He says he got
Had
offered
Houston offered
by
42.
Houston for 42 and 59 at least
Good
twice. Like if you
lord.
could get 42 and 59, like yeah,
Solid.
I'm
Sold.
chilling, and
Sold.
you'll still have a decent shot at getting
Oh yeah.
a Keon Coleman, B a Troy Franklin, C maybe a McConkey. I mean, there's
You
still going to be
think
some
Lad
decent
McConkey would
guys in
fall
that
that far
range.
down?
I
No way.
mean,
No
it,
way.
it
I've
all
seen Lad
depends how the
McConkey
board
go
works,
really,
Connor.
really
If he
soon.
falls out of round 2,
He
like
won't.
or sorry, round 1. I apologize. If he falls
Yeah,
out
now
of
he will.
round 1,
Now that is
I
a
guess it really
chance.
just depends. Like, are there? I mean, could Penix or Nix be left? Maybe
No.
teams move up if either of them are left. There's teams who still need offensive linemen. Maybe teams want to draft best defensive player available at that point. So, I mean, anywhere between round pick 33 and pick 42. Like, I guess it's just kind of musical chairs. I mean, it could go a lot of different ways. Maybe a team wants to take Sanders because he's the second best tight end and he gets picked, at 40 over a McConkey. I mean, it could work a variety of ways. I mean, for me, I think if I got something like Zach was offered, I would do it and maybe hope a Troy Franklin would be there
Oh
because
yeah. Mhm.
if you could get
Agreed.
Troy Franklin at pick 42 and then pick
Sold.
59, you take the best edge, and at pick 60, you take, the best 3 tech. And then in round 4, you hope maybe a Bishop falls. Maybe he doesn't, but you still could take a safety
Mhm.
project.
What's it?
And that's a good
Wait, hold on.
question,
What's his
Jenna.
name? What's his name? Kitan Oladipo? Or what's the other guy's name? I
Baki,
I I just know
Baki,
of hmm? Who?
Sion Baki. from
That
Utah.
guy,
He could
yes.
play running back as well, and that's an interesting question,
How
Jenna.
far do we think Leggett will
I
fall?
don't know how far he could fall. Like, I think he could fall to maybe about that range, pick
Mhm.
40s, but I don't know if he falls any further. And to be honest, like a
He
team,
goes no further than 50. I
if
think
there's
it's
if
32 of 50 is his
if
range.
there's a run on
Wait a minute.
receivers and teams feel inclined to take the best guys instead of banking on someone being available in the second,
Wait,
and say maybe the Bengals want to replace,
where is he?
T. Higgins, the Colts want to add another weapon, maybe,
They should.
the Cowboys draft a receiver, the Jaguars, say the Bills take a receiver, the Lions could add another receiver after, losing Reynolds. So could the Chiefs. Like the Ravens may take a receiver. Like, I mean, if some of these guys start flying off, like you could
You
get a
missed one.
Xavier Leggett,
You
go
missed one.
Deion Coleman too. Yep.
No, 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 no. I mean, you missed a team that could probably get a wide receiver or need a wide receiver, and that would be the Miami Dolphins, provided they don't sign Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, I don't know if that's their
Currently,
top lead or need, sorry, but I mean, I guess they could go wide receiver,
oh no,
uh,
they absolutely could. And the
round one.
fact of the
If they
matter
take
is they
Xavier Worthy,
gave him a contract.
if they
They
take
gave Odell
Xavier
Beckham that
Worthy,
contract.
that would be funny. Just in a
Oh,
sense as
you know,
they have
I've seen them take Brian Thomas Jr. in mocks, and I've seen them act. I've
I mean,
seen
I
Romo
hope
do
they
things.
take Brian Thomas Jr. because they need a lot more than another wide receiver. Like that's one of their
Yes, they do.
last needs.
Actually, no, it isn't. If you
I
got to,
mean, but you got to look at the
yeah,
importance, Connor.
Eh,
Wide receiver
I
3
agree.
versus offensive line.
Oh no, I agree.
They have no defensive tackles. Their secondary is questionable. Their linebackers are
Exactly.
questionable.
Hmm.
Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb may not play until October, November. And we saw with Von Miller how defensive linemen look coming, a year off of a
Here's the other
soft
thing.
tissue injury. So yes, they
Mhm,
could add a receiver, but
mhm.
they have holes all over that team,
Oh
and
yeah,
if they
you're
ignore
not
them to
wrong.
go a wide receiver, that's a bad move in my opinion. Yes,
Mhm,
their offense might be a little more deadly, but like let's be honest, their offense was good last year. It was
mhm,
the O line and defense which caused them so many issues.
mhm. And no, you're not wrong at all. But never put it past Mike McDaniel or that front office. Trust me,
I mean, I
they
hope they take a receiver, Connor. I
they will.
really
They
do.
could do it.
I mean,
The
Jenna makes a great point. They only have 6 picks. So if they
mhm.
use pick 22 or 23 on a wide
It's
receiver,
21, but yes,
20, oh, that's even worse. If they use 21 on a
exactly.
receiver, you
Don't
know,
put it
eh,
past them.
they're missing out on JPJ, probably
Yeah.
JPJ could be
Devondre
gone by
Sweat.
then.
Well, whatever. We'll say that the next round, though, they're going to be missing out on, the next group of centers and interior linemen
Mhm,
and all the tackles that could go there. You still have long-term questions about Teron Armstead. Like
mhm. No,
that could be a
that's
position. Honestly, Miami's best move might be taking the tackle of the future to replace
mhm.
Teron Armstead,
Actually,
because you don't know how he's even going to hold up to begin
mhm.
with. And next, he's had retirement talk. So if he has one more injury, he might just call it quits.
Oh, yeah, and
True.
here's the other thing too. It's not really Teron Armstead they should be worried about, it's Connor Williams. From what I understand, his ACL got torn so bad that he might not ever play another snap of football again.
Wow.
And if that's the case, you just lost your best center for good. Do you really want to risk having Liam Billity Eichenberg start at center and take a guy
Well,
like Brian Thomas
didn't
Jr. in
they
round one?
sign a center?
They did, but
But
what are the
he's
odds
what,
that
like 6'1"? Like they got
yeah,
an undersized center. Like
yeah,
they need
you got
some
to
beef
improve the
around
position.
them. And like their options right now are like Liam Eichenberg starting at guard. Like,
Yikes.
yeah, I mean
Yikes. Just
Robert Hunt was also a pretty big loss too. Like
oh, that
he
was a
got a
huge loss.
bag. Like he's been a pretty consistent starter.
But
Let's get into
I
these mock drafts with this heat
mhm.
going back and forth.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
because
this is
we're
a
on fire
perfect
right now.
segue. The intensity levels are high right now, so let's do this. Connor and Ben both did respective mock drafts. Uh, I sat this one out this time. When we get closer to the mock draft, closer to the draft, we'll have a collective group mock draft day that we did last year. More in a more in a, and improved
Hmm.
mock draft like we did last year. So pull up the mock drafts. We'll go we'll go round by round, and we'll kind of see the similarities and differences. How one would how one mind thinks it will go in the first round, how the other mind thinks might go in the second round. Kind of compare and contrast as we go through. Say your first round selection, say why you took them, and then we'll just have you guys go back and forth. You know, let's as
Well,
as quickly as we can.
I was just thinking of something though.
Go for it.
Connor, do you have trades? Because if you have trades, we're not going to be able to go round by round.
Yeah, no trades.
Oh, you don't have any trades?
I
Okay,
didn't take
so we
any
could do
trade
round by
downs,
round.
and I didn't trade up for anybody.
All right, so I'll go first, just because I think my mock draft. This is honestly probably one of my favorite mock drafts I did. First I took A.D. Mitchell, pick 28. I don't even know if he'll be there at pick 28, but I mean in this mock draft he's exactly what the Bills have been missing, a number 2 wide receiver, with 4.3 speed. He's got better hands than Davis, of course. I think he's a better route runner. He's got potential to be a number 1 receiver. So I think if we get A.D. Mitchell, I mean, this offense is going to another level. But I did add a little bit more to the offense too. So I guess we'll get into that later. But the Bills need a number 2 receiver, possibly a number 1 receiver in a couple years, depending on, how Diggs ages. And even if he's still a Bills in say 2 or 3 years. So, let's start planning for the future and the now, and we need a receiver. Let's add more to the offense.
Precisely. And that's a perfect segue, Ben, because obviously I did the same thing in my round 1 pick. But I decided to do something a little more spicy, considering the amount of discussions I've had around a certain prospect recently. I've been watching a little bit extra tape of the prospect I have drafted in round 1. And I actually gotta say, this guy's growing on me. I know there's a few that don't really like him. No, it's not Keon Coleman. He was there. I didn't take him. But what I didn't take Adonai Mitchell. I didn't take Xavier Worthy. I took Lad McConkey.
I kind of guess you're taking him by the way you're
I
going, but I mean, I wouldn't be upset if that's the pick. Like,
I wouldn't be either. I've been watching a lot of Lad McConkey's tape lately, and he's kind of growing on me. I didn't initially like the pick. I didn't really think that Lad would be a kind of guy that would fit in this offense, but I've watched the tape and I'm like, we got a new offensive coordinator in Joe Brady. Who knows what he's going to be able to scheme with a guy like Lad McConkey starting opposite Stephon Diggs. I think if he's there, I think it might be an interesting shot. Mitchell would be good, but I just think he has Steeler written. If that happens, oh my God.
Connor is going to melt down if that happens.
No, I am getting into the lad hive, Jenna. He is
I'm not
growing
there
on.
yet.
I'm in the
Well,
lab. I've been there for, a couple
man, you've
months.
been in the Keon Coleman hive for years now. Stop it. I mean, let's be real.
Round 2.
Ben and I are the last 2 Keon Coleman stands that are left, but Lad McConkey just screams different, and I think different in the league would be exciting. And you gotta think of it. Lad McConkey is a big guy. You know what the best part about a big physical receiver is?
He's not that big. He's what, like 6 foot, 6'1"?
I think he's a little bigger, but
I
I
don't know about
digress.
that. Let me check.
Yeah, someone
Let
check
me
because I don't remember.
fact check you on that.
Paul
And then I'll let you do your next one too, just so we can kind of switch it up.
All righty, if
I'm
you
just
insist.
not big.
Lad
I'm just
McConkey
not
is
big
6
on Lad
foot,
right now.
185.
Okay, so he's not the biggest guy. So maybe a little more of a shifty pick. I still think he'd be a very interesting addition to the offense, nonetheless. So
All right. I mean, I'm not going to
I don't
disagree.
know.
Let's hear your round 2 pick.
Yeah,
I
See
go
think
round
Jack
2.
was
I kind of
comparable.
disagree with the first round pick, but
I mean,
agree to
I
disagree.
like the Lad pick. I mean, I like Mitchell a little more, but I mean, I think Lad's still a fine pick.
Oh yeah, I think both are great. But
All
if we're
right.
going into round 2, I didn't make a trade at pick 60. I was offered multiple trades to try to get out of 60, but I did not take any of them. I didn't want this draft to have any trades. He fell right into my lap in pick 2. I went defense. I went Braden Fisk. He was right there. and I said, "Yoink, give me
Yeah.
this man right away." I know what Braden Fisk is capable of. I watched all the games that he played for us, aside from Jared Verse, and oh my God, people gave Jared Verse the credit, but no one gives Braden Fisk the credit that he rightfully deserves. Braden Fisk is a freak. Ben, you know this. He is an absolute certified freak, and him pairing next to Rousseau on
Yeah.
that, in that defense. Oh my God.
Yeah. And then if you had, Ed Oliver, Epinez on the field too, and pass rush
Hmm.
situations, like that could be a scary front. I mean, we're
That's
mostly on the same
mhm.
page here as far as needs. Fisk wasn't available to me in the mock draft I did, so I ended up taking Chris Jenkins because
Woo.
ever since Dean
I
came
like
on,
it.
that kind of planted the seed because
I like
Dean
it.
drafted his dad at Carolina, so
Hmm.
I'm gonna go with the family connections. The Bills need some depth on the defensive line, so I think Chris Jenkins wouldn't be a bad pick. I mean, I would obviously prefer Fisk, but I mean, God knows if he'll be there at pick 60. I mean, he may even uh you know rise into the first. I don't know, late first. Like
He could. He very
he's
well
been a
could.
very late riser. I think you could, but I mean, I think Fisk is just so explosive that
He
his
is.
penetration, will help in the run game. Like, I don't know if he'll just ever be able to, you know, maybe like do what like some other guys are, like one techs, but like he's disruptive enough, I think, where
Hmm.
he'll be able, to help, push in the defensive line and maybe not single-handedly stop the running back, but help clear up lanes for Bernard and
Hmm.
Milano. Because I mean,
Exactly.
if you have Fisk opposite Oliver, like I think, or Fisk opposite Jones, like I mean, I think you could have do some nice things defensively.
Oh, you
But
could. And another thing about it too is that obviously in Fisk's time at FSU, you got to remember Jared Verse also drew a lot of that, double team, triple team because of just how freaky he was. That just left every single hole open for Braden Fisk to just charge down the offensive line and bam, right into the quarterback
I
or right to the
mean,
running back for a stopping
I'll
play.
say this: if you have questions about Braden Fisk's running ability, there's been a huge. I know, like a lot of people have really gone on the Isaac uh, Garanato. I think that's his last. How you say his last name? But the guy from Louisville. A lot of
Oh,
people
I
are
like
on the
that guy.
hype train to the Louisville running back. But if you have concerns about Fisk, go back and watch that ACC championship game. And Louisville was basically running it every down, and they literally were not able to do anything. And
Nope.
Fisk was just barreling his way through, the offensive line. Like he was a one
Hmm.
man wrecking crew
Yep.
in that game.
All
So,
because they tried to stop Jared Verse with
I mean, you
every
still had a
single
Fabian
thing they
Levette there
had.
too. I mean, that would
Yep.
be a bad pick later on. But I mean, let's get into is it pick 128
It's
next?
128. Yes.
I, I know a
And you're
lot of
up, boy.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are gonna love my next pick, and I don't know if he'll
Are
even
they?
be there because I'm hearing some second round buzz for this guy. But nonetheless, he was
Oh.
available, so I took him. But Cole Bishop at
Woo.
pick
Oh,
128.
let's go.
Nice.
Bills need a safety,
Yep.
and Cole Bishop is like 6'2". I think he ran a sub 4.5 40. He's pretty rangy. I think he can play both safety positions. Just the way that McDermott has coached safeties the last couple
Mhm.
years. I think that would be a fantastic pick. I mean, I've even done mocks where I've taken Bishop at pick 60. I think in some cases, like depending on how the rounds go, that might be a justified pick, and that may not be a
Mhm.
bad pick because, from what I've heard recently, he's getting some second round buzz. So if he's that guy, you take him in the second round. Like the safety's a need.
Mhm. It's definitely a need. As a matter of fact, in my pick, Cole Bishop, I think he went in round 3. I'm trying to find him,
He's
but
been ranked. I've been seeing
or
him
not.
ranked around 60 to 91. That's like his range of all
Oh,
these different mock sites.
interesting. Very, very interesting. But now that Ben's got his out of the way, I don't know if people I know people might like this pick that I went with, but I doubled down on wide receiver in round 3. I've been doing that in a few of my mocks lately, but I
Okay.
doubled down on wide receiver, and I know there's a little bit of hype for this guy. As far as I've heard around Bills Mafia, I took Javon Baker from UCF in round 3. He was there. I said, you know what? I'm going to grab this guy right away. And I did. And Ben has disappeared. He must have hated that pick that much.
Oh
Did you?
my.
What did you do, Paul? You just booted him. Either you just booted him, or he hated that pick so much he just up and left.
He just up and left. I don't know where he went.
Ah,
Something must have kicked him out.
technical
But you can
difficulties.
technical difficulties. We'll get back to Ben's pick in a second. So let's go to your 4th round pick,
My
and
fourth. Okay. Okay.
we'll just continue the mock draft that way.
All right. So my 4th round pick is when I actually did get around to safety. I took Kitan Oladipo out of Oregon State. I've been taking him in a few of my mocks lately. Oh, there he is.
All right. Sorry about that.
Ben, did you hate my pick so much that you just up and left?
No. I actually really like that pick. Baker, I think, especially for the people like Paul, don't love the McConkey pick. I mean, if you can get a guy like Baker too, I think that makes the McConkey pick even better because you got another guy who could play outside. So then, you can use McConkey in different ways and you have a bunch of weapons on offense who Josh can throw to. If you look at Josh's best season, which in my opinion was 2020, he just had a bunch of capable receivers and weapons, and he kind of just threw it everywhere. Like, obviously, Diggs was the main guy, but he still had John Brown. He still had Cole Beasley. Even a rookie Gabe got involved. So, a guy like Baker could come in and have a role like Gabe did his rookie years. I mean, it's kind of ironic that they both come from UCF and, I don't know if he makes it to pick 128, which is the 4th round here. I mean, if he does, take him. You got to run to the podium. But yeah, I mean, that's a great pick there. I mean, if you want to move on to 133.
I don't know if you heard mine.
Oh, you already went?
Yeah, he
I don't
already
know
went.
if you heard it.
Well,
All right.
the technical
Go ahead.
difficulties
Yeah, the technical difficulties kind of took you out there.
verse.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, I went with Kitan Oladipo, the safety out of Oregon State.
So you finally got a safety. So
yeah, that's where I addressed safety.
Our first 3 picks, within the first 4, were kind of similar.
They're very similar.
Offensive side of the ball for me, but I ended up getting an interior lineman and Cooper Beebe from K-State.
Solid.
Yep. I mean, I like the Will Clapp pickup, but I think the Bills
Will Clapp what?
He's gonna clap some offense, some defensive linemen.
Too bad Christian Wilkins ain't here.
For sure,
we do have
right?
some breaking news.
Oh,
right.
What?
Involving the Bills?
Yeah, it does revolve around the Bills.
What?
Running back Damian Harris has announced that he is retiring.
Yo.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, I could see that coming with the injury. Yeah, I mean, prayers up to, him that he's able to I just hope, his health is good long term just because of the neck injury, but
same, man.
That's not that surprising, but best wishes to Harris. I mean, it's unfortunate how his time with the Bills went, but I mean, you can't really do anything about, a freak injury like that.
Yeah. It's just a kind of like the Trey White thing. It's unfortunate that those injuries happen, and hope best for a guy like Damian Harris, whose Buffalo career was cut short because of an injury. Just good for him, going back. He has, I think, a young daughter at home, so spend time with that, and good for him. He played a good career and off he goes. But let's get back into this.
Yeah, I mean, that's not that surprising to me. Anyways, with my Cooper Beebe pick, this is a guy who could almost be your Ryan Bates on steroids. I know we kind of brought in Clapp for that purpose, but I mean, obviously, I don't think he's a long-term solution. But if you look at Cooper Beebe, He's got 64 college starts at offensive tackle, 64 at guard, and 32 at center. So this guy is almost like a Swiss Army knife. If a guy goes down, you can put him at tackle. He could be your emergency center, or he can just be a pretty good dang guard, if you need a guard, right? And I think, just with I think just last year went, yes, Godspeed, Damian
Godspeed,
Harris,
Damian Harris.
Zach. But with how last year went, I don't know if you can count on all 5 of your offensive linemen not missing a single start. Like at one point, it was like a single snap until Dion went down against Miami. But like none of our offensive linemen missed a start last
Bring
year,
that back
including
up.
Mitch.
Don't you bring that back up. I don't want
I
to
know.
cry.
I mean, I hate to I hate to bring up, that and maybe like, jinx it, but like you just got to kind of bring it up. You need solid answers if someone were to go down. I think you always need a plan for that. And that's the same argument you can make for a receiver. Well, the Bills signed Curtis Samuel and Matt Collins. We still have Shakir. I mean, they aren't bad options, but then what happens if one of those guys go down? Then maybe 2 of those guys go down. You're stuck with potentially Justin Shorter and, someone off the practice squad having to play significant snaps, right? And we still don't know what Justin Shorter is. So, yeah, that's why I think you can't go wrong depth anywhere. So, who's up next? We're at I think we're at pick. Let me see where we're
The
at.
second, 5th round pick.
Pick 144. Yep.
Yeah.
All righty. So are you giving me the floor, Ben?
You can have the floor.
All righty. So this is usually where my mocks kind of get a little, they differ every time I do these because I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, now it's basically best player available at a position of need. And we're getting into players that, admittedly, I don't have too much tape on or knowledge of, but I do, tend to favor our positions of need and just try to build depth at them. So with pick 144, I took Jonah Ellis, the edge out of Utah, and
Okay.
it's solely to fill edge depth.
I mean, we're on the exact same page here because I took Grayson Murphy from UCLA. I mean, we need edge depth, and I think,
Good pick. Good pick.
yeah, I mean, I think you want to be able, to get someone, Vaughn may not be here long term.
Oh, shoot.
Rousseau, is going to be on his 5th-year option, I believe. So,
Yep.
I think this is 4th year, right? So we'll still have 2 more years, but I mean, it's coming up
Right.
eventually. So
Basically,
you
what's
gotta
confirmed
gotta
by
get
being that he
someone to
probably was going
develop.
to give him the option.
Yep. You gotta get someone
Exactly.
to develop, and I think someone, here, just get a day 3 edge depth. Like you're not gonna obviously find a Jared Verse here, but maybe you're lucky
You
and
never
find.
know. You never know.
Yeah, I
The
mean, you
draft is a
might be
crapshoot. You never know.
lucky and find someone, who can give you, a 7. I mean, you're right about that. You could find someone who could give you, a 7 to 8 snaps. Like, I mean,
And
he has a good spin move, pretty good burst, a high motor. Like, if you can get a guy like him to just give you maybe like 4 to 5 sacks, like that's not going to be a bad selection in the 5th round.
precisely.
Like maybe he could even eventually give you more after that. But yeah, it seems like we're almost on the exact same wavelengths. It's kind of, different picks. But I mean,
Of course,
obviously
the
these
FSU fans are on the same
mock
wavelength.
drafts go different. So next, I'll go next for pick 160. I got Isaac Giranado or Girando, however you say his last name, that running back from Louisville, the former
The
wide
same one that
receiver.
we absolutely stuffed in the ACC championship game.
Yep.
Don't you
But I
love it?
mean, he's a former wide receiver. I mean, he was just like the Raz champion of like the combine. So, I mean, if you want someone with supreme athletic ability, he's 6'1", so he's a little bit bigger, for a running back. He's just got, supreme upside, excellent speed. I believe 4.3 speed. So, I mean, the Bills do need another running back. I mean, I don't think it would hurt to,
Depth.
at a guy
Yes.
like him, especially with the Damian Harris news coming out. Like you
Exactly.
need a third running back. You can't count on Damian Harris. I mean, I would assume Latavius Murray isn't back, and I hope he's not back because, all love to Latavius Murray. Like he's been a dog for his career, but I mean, unfortunately, I think his career is starting, to come to an end. But
Yeah, you never know though.
let's hear who you got, Connor.
Do you really want to hear it?
Yes.
I went with the exact same player at the exact same position.
The running
At
back
the
from
exact
Louisville.
same
Oh, that's
pick.
awesome. All right,
Yep.
we'll move on to 163. So I know we have Cole Bishop and we signed Moreau, but I think the Bills could also potentially, use maybe some linebacker depth. But in here, I didn't specifically choose a linebacker. I play a safety who can play linebacker too, and played with linebackers at the Senior Bowl. But James Williams, he's 6'4", physical, can play in the box, fast. Like
I like it.
you kind of have a chess piece. Someone who could maybe fill in for linebackers, place a safety spot too. Contribute on special teams. Like I would like to see what McDermott could mold a guy like Williams into. I mean, maybe he's even just like a decent backup linebacker. But if that's the case, yeah, I mean, James Williams is an exception. I like James Williams, but no Cam Kitchens. Like I'm not a Cam Kitchens fan.
I avoided him at all costs. I will continue to avoid him at all costs. Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson torched him, and I will never ever every time I see him in mock drafts, I'm just like, really? Watch more Cam Kitchens tape. He is not good. He is not
So
good.
this
Stop.
old comment from Zach Leggett, Aurora.
No, I say no because you said Cam
no.
Kitchens. Literally, no. I will take Cole Bishop any day of the week over Cam Kitchens. Fight me. Fight me right here.
Okay.
But I love Orohoro. That pick is golden.
Yeah, I think if you swap out Kitchens for Bishop, Zach, like you would be cooking with something. I mean, you're still cooking with something minus Kitchens.
Yeah, you really are. I can't stand him. Cam Kitchens is not a prospect I have any eyes on. As a matter of fact, I am hoping that my Miami people take him because of the connection to Miami. Keep the Miami guy in Miami because he's going to get torched all year long. Watch.
Let's see who your next pick is. I want to see if
all right, are you ready?
We're still kind of on the same page.
We're not. I promise.
163?
We're not. I went yet again with wide receiver. But I also
three wide receivers. Wow. Okay, you're really committing to the wide receiver bit. I like it though. Like
remember
that's my
when we were
draft.
talking about? I made this after the news broke about the hip drop tackles. I have a feeling that with defenders, having to make the business decisions about who to tackle and how to tackle, offense might become more of a priority. So I made this draft with that in mind. So I did go a little more heavy on the offense. But for sentimentality purposes and for the fact that I feel like this would bring us some good luck, maybe, I took Luke McCaffrey with this pick.
Okay.
Ooh.
So you're trying to build like the slot, like the deadliest slot wide receiving core of all time with McConkey, McCaffrey, Shakir,
Lad McConkey, yep.
Samuel. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. I mean,
it would be an interesting comp. I'll tell you that right now.
Kind of turning this into like Kyle Shanahan offense.
For sure.
One that doesn't blow leads in the Super Bowl.
We have a McCaffrey and a Samuel at this point. You're starting to, maybe you got something there. 189. I mean, we can kind of speed this up a little bit. I took a corner, Kamal Hayden out of Tennessee. Yeah, I mean,
it just finished off your draft since it's like toward the end of it.
Yeah, I'll just go through all my picks. Yeah. So at 189, I took a corner from Tennessee. Obviously with losing Jackson, that is kind of a need, and we only have Douglas for one more year. I mean, Trey might come back, but I mean, I don't know if you can even count on him, even if he does come back, because he's coming off a pretty severe injury. I took another edge at pick 200, Solomon Byrd from USC. And then in pick 204, I took Trey Taylor, who's an underrated safety project from Air Force. And then at pick 248, I took Gabe Hall, who's a defensive lineman who's 6'6" and has got an insane motor. And you just got to look at the McDermott Dave Arenado connection. We already have Bernard there. We kind of play similar defenses, so why not get a guy from that system, which you can basically plug and play in. So that finishes out my mock draft.
It's a beautiful mock draft. Let's be completely real. All
I
right.
mean, yeah, I guess my closing takes, like, I guess outside the early rounds, it's not the best for the offense, but we added a good guard.
That's
We
what mine's
added,
for.
we added a wide receiver and we added an explosive running back. And then, like, you just kind of filled in on the defense with some, guys with upside and depth. And then that's really just all the defense needs, in my opinion. And
Exactly.
maybe you hit on a couple of these guys, like a Williams or one of these defensive linemen, and they become a stud. And I think that's just a
Precisely.
bonus.
Yep. And see, that's the one difference that we had in the later rounds, Ben, is that you went fully defense. I mostly went offense. My 189 was Mohamed Kamara, the edge out of Colorado State,
Okay.
primarily just to fill out more depth. But once it gets to 200 down, it's all offense from this point. So at 200, I took Charles Turner III. He's a center out of LSU.
Okay.
I have a feeling that, backups at center would definitely be a wise proposition. We don't want our own Liam Eichenberg situation now, do we?
Sure.
So at 204, I took Jordan Whittington, the wide receiver out of Texas. I've been seeing him on a few different mock drafts at this pick, and I kind of like the guy. Watching him a little bit, we could just continue to build at the wide receiver position. But here's the fun one: 248, our last pick. This is the project pick. Everybody's got developmental written all over them at this point. So I decided to have a little fun with this one. Remember how we were talking about how we're taking picks, for developmental reasons? You find a guy and you have a guy that can be, maybe this plug and play guy if something happens due to injury.
Can I guess who you took here? Because I
No,
kind of have a feeling I know
you
who it is.
probably already know because I've already said it. But anyway, this is around that time. Everybody's all gathered around, watching the draft. The Miami watch party is watching this and immediately just face plants their heads into every desk when the Buffalo Bills take Talia Tungavailoa, the
I
quarterback
knew
for
it.
Maryland,
I
at
knew
pick
you were going there.
248.
I almost took him too at pick 248. Like, I was like,
No.
should I?
Okay, listen. I have talked about this in the past. I've talked about the ability. Okay, look, I know he signed Mitch Trubisky, but can we just agree that no matter what happens at the quarterback position, if Josh Allen goes down, we're just screwed? Here's the idea. Say it's late in the season, the Bills have locked up a playoff spot. Let's just say not the AFC East for giggles. And, it's getting late in the game. Josh Allen, maybe hopefully not, but say he gets a stinger, has to go out of the game. Mitch Trubisky doesn't play that well. Talia Tagovailoa comes in against Miami, against his brother, throws a magnificent touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs, and the Bills win the AFC East off of that. Could you just
That
imagine?
would be crazy.
Could you
I
just
guess
imagine?
we got to address Cush's question. How many wide receivers is that, Connor? 4?
Yeah.
Lad McConkey, Javon Baker, Luke
Luke
McCaffrey, Jordan
McCaffrey.
Whittington, 4. I took 4 wide
4.
So
receivers.
how many wide receivers
Ooh.
make the roster? Like 9?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That means that
Offense,
takes a lot
Ben.
of kind of goes against Ben's idea of, you grab a couple wide receivers and you
I
really
only got
stock up
one wide
on depth
receiver.
that you need.
I would love 20
It's an
receivers,
interesting
but
debate.
we got
See,
Hollins, we got
mhm,
Samuel. I think in the middle rounds too. Like, we saw last year with Nick Broker and
mhm,
Alex Austin. Like, sometimes you don't have room for everyone to make the roster. I think now with all the releases and the Bills wanting to get younger,
mhm.
there are more spots. But considering we have 11 picks this year, I don't think it's a guarantee everyone makes the roster. So, maybe in the 7th round, you want to take a shot at receiver. I don't think it's a bad thing, to put one on the practice squad. I think Shorter's kind of just a developmental project at this point too. So, if you get
Yeah,
someone else, maybe you hit
yeah.
on one of them.
The Bills like to have a lot of defensive linemen and offensive line. They wouldn't have that many wide receivers.
Well, in
Probably not, but
Connor's world, his Madden offense, like,
I mean, hey, I would. gladly love to see a wide receiver competition if we took that many,
It
but
would be a good competition. I mean, you can't even
Oh,
guarantee that
Really?
Collins would make the team at that rate.
hey, I'm all for that. If it
I mean,
makes
I'm
making
open
this
for
offense more
competition
explosive,
too. Like anything with more explosive players, more
mhm,
weapons. I mean, I think if you take even 2 or 3, that wouldn't be a bad thing. I think you still got to take 2 either way. I
mhm.
think 1 isn't enough. 4 might just be plain overkill, but I still like it. But I
There's no
mean, I
such
think you
thing as
can make an
overkill.
argument for 2.
The Bills keep about 20 offensive linemen and defensive linemen combined. Hey, depth at a key position is critical. So I can't even fault them for that. You really can't. If the Bills get a wide receiver early, I'm good with the rest. Honestly, same. Same. Get that wide receiver, that stud wide receiver in round 1. I think most of us are just going to be sold. Like, get that stud wide receiver. Maybe get another one for depth, but nah. I mean, load up. I mean,
load up anywhere you can. I
yep.
mean, at the
Especially at
wide
such a
receiver
and
position, I mean,
you
at
gotta consider
most,
Paul, you
I
gotta
really
consider the division we're in.
right.
Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on one side, Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams on another, and who knows what the Patriots do at wide receiver. We could be in for an
Certainly.
arms race on offense in the AFC East. So why not just start
Well, my
getting and
proposition, and I think you mentioned it too, Connor. I mean, you get to pick 8 or 9, leapfrog the Jets, and steal Roma Dunze from them. And then after that, I think you can just say, hey, even if we still have, let's say we trade pick 60 as well, pick 128, and then, future
actually
picks, and you,
actually
you would still have what, like 9 total draft picks. So
mhm,
after you drafted a Dunze, right, you could still select 8 other players. You can maneuver around as well. But if you add a Dunze to this offense, I think
oh god.
you can just
Good
say,
luck.
figure it
Good
out with the
luck.
defense. Like the offense
Yep.
could be so good, we could just control time of, you know, time of possession and the clock. So the other team doesn't even
Mhm.
really have the ball that much, and our defense is fresh. We're not on the field for long periods of time, and when our defense is out there, we're well rested and we're explosive. Like
Mhm.
I trust McDermott, with our defense healthy and with young guys to get the most out of them. As long as we're mostly healthy, we
Absolutely.
have a Milano, a Bernard, majority of our defensive linemen, our corners. I'm confident that we would be able to at least stay in games. But then if you add a deadly weapon like Odunze, like you're talking
Good.
about the best offense in the league, and good luck to every defense in the NFL opposite
Super
Stephon
Bowl.
Diggs. Yep. I mean, I feel like that's a mic drop right there with the
That is a mic
Doomsday.
drop.
Like our mock drafts are, I mean, I like our mock drafts, but I mean, I still would sign up for that Odunze thing. But I mean,
Oh
it'll be
man, me
interesting to
too.
see what we do. Like we could really do a lot. Like this draft is
Yeah,
going to be a fun one. I mean, I
I'm
can't wait.
excited.
We're a
I'm excited.
we're a month away, so we'll definitely get more into that as
Mhm.
we get to there. But guys, I mean, I think that should wrap everything up tonight. I mean,
Mhm.
we had some great discussions on the rules and mock drafts. We're only going to keep talking about this, the draft
Oh
as
yeah.
we get closer. Oh, Jenna, don't even start me on that. Like neighbors to the Bills. I mean, that
Yes.
would
Yes.
cure world hunger, in my opinion.
You
But
do you wanna
I feel like
Ben,
that.
Ben, let me segue really quickly because of that comment about Malik Neighbors. I did a mock draft where that was my sole objective was to trade everything I could to get
Well,
Malik Neighbors.
post it on Twitter so we can see what it took to get neighbors. But I'm
Well,
all for it. But
I did it earlier
anyways,
this morning, but
guys,
I gave up way too much. Way too much, but I
nah,
did
you
get
can't give
Neighbors.
up way too much for neighbors. But guys, I think that's it for tonight. Connor,
Mhm.
you have Connor's take Wednesday, right?
Wednesday,
That
Friday,
is the
whatever
plan.
day.
Whenever
Yeah.
Connor's got Connor takes, we
Woo.
have our show every Mondays at 7. We'll be back next week. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow
Mhm.
on all audio platforms, and go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.